In late October, as the tourist season faded and the coastal winds turned cold, a young couple, Chloe, a freelance illustrator with a love for abandoned places, and Ryan, a literature professor searching for peace after a recent loss, rented an old beach house on the edge of Maine's rocky shore. Isolated from town, surrounded by pine trees and mist, the house was meant to be their escape, a romantic getaway to heal, reconnect, and start fresh. But the house carried a history buried beneath salt and silence, one soaked in love, betrayal, and something far more sinister that waited beneath the floorboards. What began as a passionate retreat soon unraveled into a nightmare that blurred the line between affection and obsession. Past and present, the living and the drowned. The silver sedan rolled up the gravel path, dust curling in its wake. Chloe leaned against the window, her fingers tracing the shape of the wind-blown pines that guarded the lonely stretch of coastline. The beach house loomed ahead, weathered but beautiful, an old sea captain's home-turned lover's retreat. Ryan parked the car and smiled at her. Just us. No phone signals. No neighbors. Finally alone. Chloe smiled back, brushing a strand of red hair behind her ear. It's perfect, the waves whispered just beyond the dunes. The sun, low and bruised with gold and crimson, dipped behind the ocean like a dying flame. They dined by candlelight. The only sound, the moan of the sea and the occasional creak of the old house. Ryan poured wine while Chloe traced the lines of his wrist. You ever think about how old places remember things? She asked. He raised a brow. You mean like ghosts? No. I mean like memories. Like if walls could whisper. As she said that, a sharp knock echoed 3 distinct raps from the ceiling above. Ryan froze, probably the wind. They hadn't been upstairs yet. Later in the hallway, Chloe stopped in front of a narrow door with chipped white paint. It was locked. Cold air seemed to seep from underneath it. Who locks a room in a beach house rental? She asked. Ryan pulled her gently away. Doesn't matter. I only need one room with you. They kissed deeply as the wind howled louder, rattling the shutters like angry fingers. But behind the locked door, something scraped soft and slow like bare feet on wood. That night they made love with the windows open, the salt air mixing with sweat and whispers. Chloe's nails scratched Ryan's back as waves crashed rhythmically outside. It was passion under a pale, haunted moon. But just as she drifted to sleep on his chest, she heard a splash. Not from the ocean, from inside the house. Chloe followed the wet footprints that started at the staircase. Bare, human, and fresh. They glistened like jellyfish in the moonlight. At the end of the hallway stood a woman, long hair dripping. A white nightgown soaked through, face turned toward the sea through a window. Chloe gasped. Hello. The woman turned. Her face was wrong, waterlogged, swollen, eyes clouded. Ryan bolted from the bedroom, baseball bat in hand. But when he reached her, the woman had vanished, leaving only puddles and seaweed where she had stood. By morning, Ryan found a hidden compartment under the floorboards. Inside, a salt-eaten journal. June 18th, she keeps coming back. Always wet, always watching. I think it's my fault. I never should have let her drown. July 4th, I locked the door. She waits, wants love. Or revenge. A photo fell from the back, the wet woman smiling. Once beautiful, standing on the porch beside a man who looked just like Ryan. Chloe grew distant, pale. She stared out the window for hours, whispering something inaudible. At night, Ryan heard her walking toward the ocean, speaking with someone unseen. One morning, she stood waist-deep in the freezing waves. She says you look like him, Chloe said blankly. You smell like his skin, like salt and guilt. Chloe, come back, Ryan shouted. But her eyes, her lovely brown eyes, had gone milky white. Desperate, Ryan pried open the locked room. Inside, an old iron tub filled with stagnant black water. Chloe appeared behind him. She drowned here. He held her under it, where you're standing. Then she lunged. Ryan woke, gasping, tied to the tub, Chloe crying softly beside him. She loves you now. That's why she wants your breath, like he took hers. As the water rose, Chloe kissed him, tender, slow, like she used to before the house. But her lips were cold, her breath full of brine. I love you forever, she whispered. Just not alone. The last thing he saw was her face changing, becoming hers. The woman from the sea. Weeks later, another young couple arrives, laughing and touching, in love and clueless. The beach house smiles from the dune, its salt-cracked wood sighing in the breeze. The waves, patient and eternal, crash against the shore waiting. In the locked room, a tub refills itself, and under the floorboards, a new journal begins. This story happened one late autumn evening in a forgotten coastal town, where the ocean whispers secrets no one dares to repeat. Evelyn and Mark, two lovers on the brink of falling apart, came here for one last chance to save their love. They didn't know. Something ancient had been waiting for them. The cottage stood like a relic on the edge of a cliff, beaten by salt and time. Ivy crawled up the stone walls like veins. Waves crashed violently below. Evelyn stepped out of the car, shivering. "Evelyn, why does it feel like something's watching us?" Mark laughed, brushing her cheek. "Mark, it's just the sea. Eve, this place is peaceful. It's what we need." Inside, the cottage was colder than it should have been. Dust lingered in the air. Above the fireplace, something had been scratched into the stone. "She waits beneath the waves." That night, they sat by the fire, red wine in hand. The silence between them was heavy. But then, Mark reached for her hand. Something softened. "Mark, I missed you, Evelyn. I missed us." They kissed long, slow, like lovers trying to remember who they used to be. And for a moment the house felt warm. But outside the wind screamed, and Evelyn heard singing, a woman's voice, far away. Sad. The next morning, Evelyn walked alone to the beach. The mist hung low, the path overgrown. At the shore, she saw footprints bare, human feet leading into the ocean. And then, a woman appeared. Long black hair, standing waist-deep in the water. The woman turned around, and Evelyn froze. She was staring at herself, pale, hollow-eyed, blue-lipped. The other Evelyn smiled, and vanished beneath the waves. Evelyn screamed. Shaking, Evelyn ran back to the cottage. In the attic, she found a leather journal, its pages yellowed, ink smudged with tears. It belonged to a woman named Eliza Kearns. A century ago, she'd lived in that very house, promised me forever. But when I became too much, he threw me into the sea. I wait for him still. I wait for them all. Lovers who lie, lovers who leave. The final page was stained red. I am no longer Eliza. I am every woman broken by false love. I'll return. In their mirrors, in their dreams, in their hearts. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. The mirror in the bedroom kept fogging, though the room was cold. At 3:13 a.m., she woke up gasping. Water dripped from her hair. Her clothes were soaked. Mark sat up confused. "Evelyn, what the hell?" She lunged at him, but it wasn't her. Not anymore. Mark grabbed her shoulders, searching for the woman he loved inside that body. "Evelyn, fight her, please." And somewhere inside, Evelyn screamed, trapped beneath the surface. The thing whispered, "Take me instead," Mark said suddenly. "Let her go. I'll stay. Take me instead." The creature paused and smiled. "Willing souls taste sweeter." Evelyn collapsed, gasping. Herself again. But Mark was gone. Just gone. Now, Evelyn lives in the cottage alone. She walks the cliffs at dusk and listens to the waves. Sometimes she still hears him, calling her name from beneath the tide. She never leaves, because now she waits, just like Eliza. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more romantic horror and psychological thrillers. The Rosewood Wedding, a romantic horror with a shocking ending. They were young, beautiful, in love, and their wedding was supposed to be perfect. But the Rosewood estate had a secret, and by the time anyone knew the truth, it was already too late. Violet Moore received the letter on a Wednesday morning, a handwritten invitation from her ex, Julian Kane, whom she hadn't seen in 3 years. The message read, Come to Rosewood. I want to explain everything. I want you back. I've planned something special for us. One last night. She knew she shouldn't go. But she still loved him. Or maybe she needed closure. Rosewood had once been grand. Now it was just empty halls, broken chandeliers, and long-forgotten whispers. Julian greeted her at the door dressed in a crisp black suit just like the day he proposed. "Julian, you came. I knew you would." He kissed her hand, but Violet noticed he was cold, not figuratively. His skin, he'd prepared a full dinner. Roses, music, her favorite wine. But no staff, no electricity, no sound, except the ticking of an antique grandfather clock. "Julian, let's pretend none of it ever happened. Let's start over, Violet." "Violet, you left me, Julian? Disappeared? I thought you were dead?" He just smiled. "Julian, I was, for a while." After dinner, he showed her a room upstairs. Inside, a wedding dress, her size waiting on a mannequin. "Julian, I've arranged everything. The minister will arrive by dawn. All you have to do is say yes." Violet laughed nervously. "Violet, is this a joke?" "Julian, does it feel like one?" That night, Violet couldn't sleep. She heard someone humming in the hallway. A woman, soft, desperate. She followed the sound to the basement. There, she found photos. Hundreds of them. Women, all dressed as brides, all standing beside Julian. Different years, same man. None of them smiled, and none of them looked alive. "Violet, who are these women? What is this place?" Julian didn't deny it. "Julian, they loved me, just like you. But love is fragile, Violet. So I preserved them." Preserved them. Taxidermy, glass eyes, stuffed bodies. Julian wasn't planning a wedding. He was building a museum of eternal brides. Violet ran through the mansion. Her screams echoed, swallowed by the walls. She found a hidden room filled with mannequins, until one blinked. A real woman, still alive, gagged, barely breathing. Julian had kept one from each decade. By sunrise, the police had arrived. An anonymous tip had led them to Rosewood. Someone had called ... the night before. But not Violet. She was unconscious when they found her. And Julian ... was still wearing a blood-stained tuxedo, smiling. "Julian, I knew she'd be the perfect one." But the twist, the invitation Violet received, wasn't from Julian. It was from his last victim. A dead bride, reaching from the afterlife to warn the next. Rosewood Mansion is closed now. But some say on stormy nights, you can still hear violin music and see a woman in a wedding dress wandering the halls, not looking for love, but warning the next one.